The Stranger Things podcast, episode number 6, The Monster.
Ella's one of us now.
No, she's not. Not even close. Never will be. She's a liar, a traitor.
She was just trying to keep us safe. She didn't mean to hurt you. It was an accident.
An accident?
All right, accident or not, admit it was a little awesome.
Awesome?
Yeah, she threw you in the air with her mind.
I could have been killed.
Which is exactly why we need her. She's a weapon. Do you seriously want to fight the Demogorgon with your wrist rocket? That's like R2-D2 going to fight Darth Vader.
Welcome to the Stranger Things podcast, a fan podcast dedicated to the original Netflix series,
Stranger Things.
That's right. I'm Daryl.
And I'm Addie.
How are you today?
Awesome, because it's the 4th of July and I love fireworks.
It's the 26th of July. Shh, don't tell anybody.
It's the 4th of July and I love fireworks.
That's right. We are recording this early compared to the release date, as you've probably figured out by now if you've been following along with us each week. And because Addie, you and I are now just a few days away. Gosh, what are we, like 5 days away from heading to Guatemala for a week? And then we come home for 2 days. And then we go to Comic-Con for like 6 days. So we've got to record all these now because, I mean, the reason, I don't know that I've said this, is we want to get all of these recorded and in the bag before Comic-Con for a couple of reasons. One is I don't want to get spoiled by anything that we see at Comic-Con. And two is if we happen to get the chance to speak with the cast, which we've requested that. We haven't heard yet if we're going to be able to do that or not. But, you know, I want to have the full season of knowledge to be able to ask them questions about. So we got to get this done before we go to Comic-Con, and which by the time this episode comes out, we're already back home from Comic-Con. So, in fact, we would have come home yesterday.
On the 25th?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're doing well. It's 4th of July here today.
Yep.
Me too. So we just got to see the hometown fireworks display.
Well, we got to see like the bottom half or the top half.
Half of it, yeah. We can go out in our backyard and watch it. They shoot it off at the university, which is like, I don't know, if as the crow flies, probably 3/4 of a mile from here. But it means we don't get to see the low stuff. We just get to see the stuff that makes it pretty high up into the air. But it's most of it.
Well, we can't see the big finale, and that made me really sad.
Yeah, the finale didn't go as high as some of the others did.
Need to smoke some more weed.
All right. Well, I don't know if they smoked weed for inspiration or not. Perhaps they did. If they did, good on them. If not, good on them, because the show is good. That is, the writers of this episode, the creators of this show. Who am I talking about?
This episode is written by the Duffer Brothers and directed by Jesse Nixon Lopez.
The Duffer Brothers. They sound familiar. Who are they?
They're the writers of Stranger Things.
Oh. How are they related to each other?
They're sisters.
I see what you did there. Trying to change things up, trying to catch me off guard. I think they're brothers. It's just a hunch.
Actually, they're like long lost cousins.
It could be. Anyway, what is Jesse Nixon Lopez? What does she have to do with the show?
Jesse actually directed Stranger Things, so that's how she's related to it.
Yeah, that joke's getting old for me. I can't imagine
like
how old it's getting for the rest of the audience. But anyway, I'm so glad that you have decided to tune into today's episode. Old, stale jokes or not. Hey, that joke is getting old too. If it happens to be your first time tuning in to our podcast, welcome. We are so glad that you have decided to do so. Addison, I am just loving this show more and more. I think I've said this will be the 4th episode in a row where I'm going to say I think this is my favorite. This is my new favorite. And I might have been, so I've been saying that since like episode 2. So I think every episode, because of course episode 1 was my favorite. It was the only one I've seen. And I think when we did episode 2, I said, this is my favorite. And then episode 3, I was like, this is my favorite. Episode 6, this is my favorite. I'm really loving this show. It's getting better each time.
I'm still going to have to go with episode 4 as my favorite.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorites.
This had one of your favorite scenes, I think. You mentioned a few episodes ago, I think when we were doing episode 4, that there were like 3. You didn't have a favorite scene. You had 3 favorite scenes in the series, and I'll bet you this episode had one of those. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Okay. See, and you and I hadn't talked about that yet. So, and I know exactly which one it is. I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure. And I bet the listeners can figure it out too. We'll talk about it. We'll get there. Here's the roadmap for our episode today. We're going to start out with a short episode recap. Then we're going to spend the majority of our time going through and just talking about the episode. We're going to go through it kind of piece by piece. Then we've got some listener feedback in a segment we like to call Notes from the Upside Down. And we're going to do the quote of the week, which was Addison's favorite quote of the week. Her second favorite quote was the one that you just heard, which was hilarious. Dustin and Mike. After the quote of the week, we're going to spend some time, just a little bit of time this week, on some predictions that I have. And we've got just a little bit of news in our Hawkins report. That's our news and rumors section. And we're going to close it out with
the meme of the week.
My favorite segment of the episode.
Meme, M-E-M-E, meme of the week.
The meme of the week.
You still sound...
All right, let's get it kicked off with the episode recap. Nancy follows Jonathan's voice and escapes the Upside Down, coming back through the portal in the tree and re-entering the human world. The two go back to Nancy's house, where Jonathan stays over for the night at the request of an afraid Nancy. She doesn't want to be alone. However, Steve sees them together through Nancy's bedroom window. Meanwhile, Hopper describes to Joyce what he saw after he broke into Hawkins' lab. Hopper comes to the conclusion that he may have found another missing kid while searching for Will. He speculates this could be the allegedly kidnapped daughter of former test subject Terry Ives. At the urging of Dustin, Mike tries to apologize to Lucas. Lucas says he'll accept the apology under the condition that they forgot about 11. Mike refuses, and Lucas sets out to find Will on his own. In a flashback, Brenner is seen telling Elle to make contact with the monster. In real time, Elle goes into a grocery store and steals boxes of Eggo waffles. She uses her powers to break the sliding glass doors, which leaves a trail for Dustin and Mike to follow in hopes of tracking her down. Elsewhere, Hopper and Joyce track down Terry Ives. They find Terry in a catatonic state, seemingly unable to talk. Terry's sister Becky explains Terry's role in Project MK Ultra. She would take psychedelics and be placed in a sensory deprivation tank in order to expand the boundaries of her mind. They didn't know it, but she was pregnant at the time, and she was told that she had had a miscarriage in her 3rd trimester. However, Hopper speculates that the miscarriage could have been a cover-up. Jonathan and Nancy purchase weapons for monster hunting before they can go back into the woods. Nancy sees a defaced movie marquee with derogatory messages about her spray-painted on top of it. Nancy and Jonathan find Steve and his friends in a nearby alley, continuing to create abusive messages. Steve confronts Jonathan and Nancy about the two of them sleeping together. Nancy tries to explain it's not what it looked like, but Steve refuses to listen. Jonathan and Steve get into a fistfight, leading to the police arriving and arresting Jonathan. While trying to find the gate to the Upside Down, Lucas rides his bike and finds that the compass is pointing towards Hawkins' laboratory. Meanwhile, Mike and Dustin are cornered on a cliff by Troy and James. Troy threatens Dustin with a switchblade, saying he will cut out his teeth if Mike doesn't jump. Mike jumps, but before he hits the water, he freezes in midair and levitates back to safety. Elle appears on the road and uses her powers to break Troy's arm. As Elle falls to the ground, a flashback shows her succeeding in making contact with the monster. Elle apologizes, claiming she is the monster for having opened the gate. Mike comforts her, saying she isn't the monster because she saved him. Mike and Elle hug each other, and Dustin joins in. As Mike, Dustin, and Elle are returning to Mike's house, an agent posed as a repairman spots them. He notifies the lab of their whereabouts. Short and sweet today. which means it's time.
Like Colby, except for the sweet part.
It's time for some episode discussion. All right, let's start by talking about the episode title. I've been doing pretty good about not learning what the episode titles were until I go in to put the notes, start the notes for the next episode. Like tonight, after we finish recording 6, I'll create the notes for 7, and it's at that point that I'll look up the title for the episode. Except today I saw the next 2 episode titles, and they didn't really spoil me, so I was glad about that. But when I saw the episode title, The Monster, I thought, oh, this is going to be great. Because Nancy had, she was, when last we saw our band of heroes, Nancy was trapped in the Upside Down. So I thought, oh, The Monster, this is going to be great. We're going to spend the entire episode in the Upside Down, and we are going to learn some stuff about the monster. This is going to be great. Well, that was wrong. Do you pay attention to episode titles at all when you watch it, or before you push the play button or anything like that?
Well, at first I didn't really care because we weren't doing a podcast on it, back in October. But now I'm just like, oh yeah, The Monster.
Well, just, suffice it to say that this episode did not give me what I was expecting, but it did not let me down. So let's kind of take this. We're going to pretty much do like we did last time and just kind of take it, not scene by scene, but storyline by storyline, although we're going to break up a couple of them. It starts, as I said, right where the last one left off. I mean, exactly where the last one left off. Nancy's in the Upside Down, and she's trapped in the woods. Exactly. I love this. We got very little of her in the Upside Down, but I loved it. As I think I told you at the end of our last episode, I didn't see how she was going to be getting out of this anytime soon. I was shocked that by the time the opening song played, she was outside of the Upside Down. I couldn't believe it. So what were your thoughts here?
Well, okay, whenever she's like standing against the tree,
yeah,
and you see the monster come up on, well, it's her right side, but like it's to our left, and then you see it go around to the other side, and then I'm just like, it's like in the first episode, whenever you see the Demogorgon through the window, it's like that intense moment. I'm like, okay. Yeah, it is intense. There's no doubt. And again, as I'm watching this for the first time, I'm like, there's no way. How's she going to escape? I didn't think she was going to like escape back out to the outside world. I thought she was going to be like Will, where she's running and hiding. And we do in that little bit of a moment, we get a glimpse, just using our imagination, of what Will has been going through for almost a week now, where he's having to hide and cower from the monster. That would be terrifying. I mean, as a 12-year-old, he's doing a pretty good job.
He's doing an amazing job. I mean, we see when she gets out how it affects her. I mean, and wouldn't it, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but it just kind of makes you really sympathize for Will. Like, again, what kind of condition is he going to be in when he gets out? But
how is he eating?
Probably eating pine cones.
Pine cones.
But I thought it was interesting when Nancy, when she pushes her hand out and Jonathan's there and he pulls her out. As soon as she comes out, like immediately the doorway or the portal that's in the tree closes up. So I don't know if that was just for drama or if that was, some sort of clue or to help us get some understanding of maybe why Will's having such a hard time getting out. I mean, there's myriad reasons why Will could be having a hard time getting out. I mean, it'd be easy to get lost in there. And this is maybe he doesn't even know how he came in. Like, she at least knew that she had crawled through a tree to get there. He was drugged through somewhere. So, like I said, there's reasons you can make, but I just thought this might be a clue that a door can only be entered and exited one time. And once it's completed that cycle, it closes up. I don't know if that's true or not. We don't have any other examples of that. You know, the only other one I can think of is in the lab, and that scientist never came back out. Like, the monster probably came out of that hole, but nothing has gone back in to complete the cycle. Well, no, that's true. The scientist did go in. That would have completed the cycle. Yeah, so I don't know. I just thought it was really weird. It's probably nothing. It probably was just for drama.
Maybe it's like per person. Like, it has to be the same person going in and the same person coming out.
Maybe so. Maybe, I don't know. So, it's probably nothing. I don't want to make too much of it, but it was just a weird observation. Jonathan was really cool, takes her home. You know, she has, we've talked about this, she has the most oblivious parents. I mean, they've got this strange girl staying in their basement for almost a week, and they don't have any idea. Steve's up in her room on the first episode. They have no idea. Jonathan stays the night, and they have no idea. So they don't really observe a whole lot of things. But anyway, Jonathan was cool. Steve, the creep, comes and spies them in the window. We'll get back to that storyline in a little bit later. And of course, as you can only imagine, Nancy can't sleep. Those were kind of my notes on that scene. And I mean, how could you sleep after that, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. Jonathan did, but Jonathan didn't experience what she did.
Yeah. If only Steve was that deer.
Oh, dang. Oh, dear. All right. Let's talk about Hopper and Joyce. Hopper tells Joyce about what he saw when he broke into the lab, about the child's room and the drawing.
I think they were talking about it before, because Joyce says, wait, you didn't mention a drawing, because they were like going back over it. Yep. And he was like, well, is that important? But yeah, it is important, because then she's like, well, what does it look like? And he's like, well, it's a child's drawing. It's just stick figures.
Right.
And she's like, that can't be Will, because have you like seen it? And she gave it to him with the cabbages. Right. And so that's when they kind of realize a little more that there's two people that they're going after.
Yeah. And I didn't think that was too much of a stretch at that point for him to realize, oh, the other kid that guy was telling me about is a different kid. We're looking for that kid and Will Byers. What I thought was a bit of a stretch is for him to then remember of all the articles. I know that one article kind of stuck in his mind a little bit, but for him to go, oh, that must be the missing kid that this one lady was saying, you know.
Well, I think he read a couple articles about it.
I know, but I felt like, how do you make the connection that kid is the one that's missing from the article? Like, I don't know.
And I mean, if there's one kid that's like missing from like that like age range, mm-hmm. and it's like a kid's drawing and they find it, I mean, I would probably remember that too.
Yeah. Yeah. But whatever the reason, he did put two and two together, which I'm glad he did, because that got him on the trail of, what was her name? Terry Ives, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we're going to learn, there was no mystery here as far as I'm concerned, right? Because they were at some point interlacing these flashbacks of 11 in the lab with the description of Terry's sister, of what she's saying Terry said about the kid. So there's no question that this child, Jane, is in fact 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really cool stuff. Terry's sister tells them that they're about 5 years too late. She says that Terry miscarried in the third trimester, but Terry acts like Jane is real, like she actually did give birth to Jane, even though there's no birth certificate at the hospital, no doctors, nothing. There's no record of it. And of course, Hopper's like, well, yeah, but if you were trying to cover it up, wouldn't that be what you would do? And the sister's just like, yeah.
You guys would have gotten along.
Exactly. I don't know. I really like the way these scenes were put together with the kind of the flashbacks of 11 with kind of looking over at Terry and then Terry's sister and all these things. It kind of made for, I don't know. I just really thought these were some really cool scenes that they put together.
So two things about this scene that I like is one where they first walk into the nursery and Hopper spins a little thingy over the bed. It ends like the little song plays and the song ends exactly when the scene is over. I think that's like perfect. And whenever they're talking about Eleven's powers, she's like talking about how she thought her baby had like, telekinesis, and every time they named off a superpower, they showed a scene of 11 doing that superpower, and I thought that was really cool, because then it's like, oh, okay, she definitely is Jane,
yeah. I completely agree. I love that. You've got another note in here that I really thought was quite perceptive.
So whenever Terry's sister was talking about how they all think she's crazy and that, her baby doesn't exist, no one believes Terry that, she actually gave birth to her. Just like no one believes Joyce that Will is still alive. Mm-hmm. And, you can see him through a wall, because it does sound crazy, but
right.
I mean, to us, it's not crazy since we've seen the other side of it.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that got me thinking, like, what is Terry, when we see Terry and how she's just not able to function, she's clearly there. You see her moving with her eyes and stuff like that, but she's just not functioning. I wonder if that's what would have happened to Joyce, if she would have been left all alone in this world that she knows to be real, but everyone else thinks is crazy, right? So, or I wondered if maybe they did something to her, the scientists, they drugged her, I don't know, but I've got some other ideas I'll share on that on my predictions section. But yeah, really, really cool. I've mentioned a lot. Sometimes I wonder if it's too much, but how much this show's reminding me of Fringe. This is another episode that did that. I mean, in Fringe with Olivia as a kid, Olivia is an adult for the entire show. When we see her as a kid, it's only in flashback. And we get bits and pieces of what she was subjected to, what kind of abilities she had as a child, and different things like that, and why they did things to her as a child. I don't want to say too much for those who haven't seen Fringe yet, but part of it, I think there was a good chunk of the audience, and maybe a chunk of every person. Some people wanted it more than others, maybe, but I think for the majority of the audience, there was a desire to see more of that, more of Olivia as a child, and to experience that, to see her in action, and just different things like that. And I feel like this show is giving us that through the character of 11. So anytime we're seeing 11 in action, whether it's in these flashback scenes or like we see her with the bullies in this episode, it's awesome. I'm loving it. And it's really exciting for me. So again, I feel like it's a very complimentary show to Fringe in many ways, and that being just one of them. So when we see her again doing these things, like you said, rapid fire, telekinesis, boom, flashback, telepathy, boom, flashback, whatever. Loved that. That was so cool for me. Now, the one line we get from the sister, not the one line, but one that I made a note of, was that they stole her to use as a weapon to fight the commies. You know what that means? You know who the commies are?
Communists?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Do you know who the communists are in the 1980s?
No.
The Soviet Union, the Russians. The Soviet Union is no longer. It broke up at the end of the Cold War in the early 90s. Russia was the biggest part of that. So Russia is the biggest country that used to be part of the Soviet Union. A lot of the Eastern European countries were once a part of the Soviet Union. But anyway, communists in the 80s, the Cold War was against the Soviet Union. So yeah, that would make sense that this line here just kind of, again, we're talking about 1983. We're still in the midst of the Cold War. And so that would make sense. And you remember last week we saw Elle listening in on a guy speaking Russian through the provision tank. I couldn't decide whether it was Russian or French. Definitely Russian. And that, again, so that complements what we saw in the previous episode. So basically, what I'm putting together, it looks like they could use her as a weapon. I mean, we've seen her be able to use her mind to break
Kill people.
arms and kill people and all these other things. But she can also be used as a spy to be able to listen in on people, even though she's in the middle of Indiana and they're wherever in the world they are. So pretty powerful weapon in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Let's go back to the Wazowski house.
Wheelers.
That's what I said. And Mike, he's upset and destroys the blanket for it.
You mean Will?
I did put Will there originally. I have to admit, I was a bit sad when he's like destroying the blanket for it, because that kind of represents Elle's safe spot and Elle's presence in their house and being a part of them. And so, not to say he can't rebuild it and won't rebuild it. I don't know. Probably not, given the way this episode ended. but anyway, it made me a little bit sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Couple things I noticed in the basement this time. One, I had noticed before, but I wasn't 100% sure because I didn't get a good look at it, at least the time that I noticed it. So I didn't write it down. That was a poster or picture of Godzilla. Do you know what Godzilla is?
Kind of.
Okay.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
And it's a snow cone flavor.
I don't think that's the proper context for this show.
Oh, dang it.
Do you remember when we were in Hawaii? We saw something about Godzilla.
We did?
Yeah, when we visited the Kualoa Ranch.
The what ranch?
The filming tour ranch. There were some big, like, dinosaur footprints in the ground. Do you remember driving by those?
No.
No? Well, Godzilla, and I don't know when the first Godzilla came out. Probably, I would guess, in like the 60s, maybe the 50s.
Oh, did you go watch them film it?
No, that was a good while before I was born. Thank you. And it's basically a big giant dinosaur that comes out of the ocean and attacks, I think, Tokyo or somewhere in Japan. It's a Japanese-based story. And then it's been redone even as recently as in the last 10 years or so. There was a version of it made. But you have this monster coming out and attacking. So there's certainly Godzilla is one of the classic monster movies of all time. And we're talking about an episode called The Monster, a show about a monster. Definite tie-in there. But there was also a dinosaur, a toy dinosaur, and it was on one of the end tables down there. But there's another poster, and this was a movie that you and I talked about in episode 0, a John Carpenter movie.
The Thing?
The Thing. Yes. Do you know anything about do you remember, did you research The Thing at all?
No.
No. So I actually did a podcast on The Thing about 4 years ago. And I have to say, since that time, over the last few years, my appreciation for the film has grown quite a bit from when I did that podcast. I wish I could redo that podcast and give it
You could.
a higher review. I guess I could. But anyway, it tells the story of an alien who lands in Antarctica, crashes there. Anyway, this alien, and there's a science station there in Antarctica. And you think about that science station, you don't get there easily. Scientists are brought there and they stay there for months at a time. And then another crew comes in and relieves them. So you're talking about complete isolation. And this alien has the ability to shapeshift, take the form of anything. Obviously, that's what shapeshift means. and just pick you off one by one. And it may take the form of a dog and then kill you and take your form. I don't recognize that you're not you. You look like you. And now it kills me and takes my form and then, kills Colby. That's what it does.
Fun.
And they figure it out, but then it can, change into the shape of something else. So you think you've killed it, but it's actually this person now. And it killed them and you don't know it, So it makes for a really good story, really creepy monster movie. I rewatched, I saw a YouTube video today of all the places where The Thing is on screen in The Thing. So where the monster's on screen. And there was a really great scene, one of the early scenes we see of it in that film that I did not remember. And it's still in the form of a dog. It starts out in the form of a dog. That's how it kind of gets into the scientist station because they have a team of sled dogs, right? And so it takes the form of one of these sled dogs, and they don't even know. They don't even recognize it sitting there at the feet of their table while they're eating and that sort of thing. It goes to attack these other dogs, and its face splits open into 4 different parts. And there's a mouth that comes out of it, and it starts eating. And that is something we have clearly seen in this show. And at the end of the last episode, when Nancy was in the Upside Down and it looked over at her, it looked pretty much, the equivalent to that for the shape of the monster. Like, obviously a dog's snout and face shaped differently than what we're seeing here with this monster, but the way its face unfolds and there's that mouth in the middle, just like we saw in the Thing. So they've clearly drawn upon the Thing as inspiration, at least in that regard, and I would imagine in other ways too that will become more evident as we go through the series.
Imagine how much more difficult it would be if the Demogorgon could shapeshift.
Oh yeah.
Rip everyone in Hawkins.
Yeah. And that's the way the Thing kind of ends. It's very ambiguous on whether or not they've actually killed it or whether one of the 2 survivors is actually the Thing. And then you get the idea, the thought is, if it's actually one of those 2 guys, is it just going to bide its time until the relief shows up and then hop on the boat or the airplane, whatever it is, and go back to civilization and start, it could destroy the world, so yeah, because no one would know. It's pretty creepy. Anyway, it's a really good movie. Like I said, we did it as part of our triple cast here on Golden Spiral Media. So we did that back in October of 2013. I don't know what episode that was, but you should be able to find it pretty easily that way. Triple cast. It's in Apple Podcasts or whatever your favorite podcast app is, and you can go check that out. Okay, Eddie, let's talk about Dustin's conversation with Mike trying to make up with Lucas.
So whenever they're in the basement of the Wheeler's house there, Dustin's like, okay, you guys were both being unreasonable. And, well, of course, Mike was like, well, no, I wasn't. It was Lucas. Lucas was the one that started all of it. And Dustin was like, no, you, Elle, and Lucas were all, being unreasonable. And I was the only one who was actually trying, which... yeah, that's true, because they all had some of it except for Dustin, because Dustin's the only good one. And he was like, okay, you drew first blood, you pushed him first, you have to shake his hand. Do you want to be kicked out of the party? And Mike's like, no, I don't. So like the second he gets over there, he is like, I drew first blood, so here. He just like reaches out his hand. He doesn't like apologize or anything. He's just like, here, shake it.
It's his peace offering. That's as close to an apology as you're going to get.
And whenever they both get over there, he's like, okay, come inside. He finally decides to shake if they ditch 11. And of course, Mike didn't want to do that. And Dustin's like, no, it's not fine. You guys have to make up. And then the, openings in this scene. Mm-hmm. And they all end up just splitting up. Well, Mike and Dustin stay together, but Lucas goes out by himself. But that is kind of, it turns out good because you learn he gets a lot of information and like protects them. So yeah.
I just love this scene. I think every time there's a scene like this, I mean, we've I don't know what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is we've said that over and over again. These boys, when they're together, it's just the best thing. Mm-hmm. They're so good together. I was just watching this scene. This is probably my favorite scene of the episode because I'm even when it was just Mike and Dustin. The writers have done such a good job of creating these 3 boys who are the same age, who have the same interests, but they are clearly unique. They are so clearly unique. And they kind of hold each other accountable. They complement each other so well. And
it helps that they're all like best friends in real life too.
There's no doubt. And the actors are doing, I'm sure they're bringing their own personalities and their own understandings and creating these characters and making them their own, and it just makes it really nice and fun to watch. And you don't see 2 of them ganging up. I mean, even when Mike or really Dustin is trying to get Lucas on the Mike side, not for the sake of Mike, but for the sake of the group, it's not like Mike and Dustin are teaming up on Lucas. I mean, they're all going about it in their own way. It's not like we said, okay, here's how we're going to do it, and let's bully Lucas into our way of thinking. It wasn't like that at all. And so, anyway, I love the writing. I love the acting. These characters are just so much fun to watch on screen together.
But how is that your favorite scene, and not the 11?
Well, I for different reasons, I loved the 11 scenes too.
That part was hilarious.
Which part? The one we haven't talked about yet?
The 11? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But this one was so good. This was so good. I love Dustin, again, reverting back to Dungeons and Dragons parallels.
He's like, remember when I forgot what the thing was, but they like split up and then the trolls took them out one by one.
Yep.
So they're like, do you want that to happen again?
Yeah. So. You guys are acting like goblins with zero intelligence or something to that effect, he said at one point. And I don't know. It was really, really good. Loved it. But you're right. Lucas doesn't want to have anything to do with Elle. And so he goes off into his own thing. It reminded me of like a little Rambo. Rambo was a movie that came out around this time, mid 80s. Are you familiar with Rambo at all?
I know he has the thing around his head.
Exactly, the bandana. Yeah. And it was Sylvester Stallone. You know who Sylvester Stallone is?
I do.
Gosh. I mean, I don't know what movie you would have seen him in. Rocky? You've seen Rocky, the Rocky movies?
No, I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah. Well, this was not his heyday. I mean, his heyday was the 80s and 90s, but he's a big action movie star. And at the time, he was really known for Rocky. And then Rambo came along, and he did like 3 or 4 Rambo movies as well. But Rambo was a soldier from the Vietnam era, I believe, and comes back home and doesn't know how to fit into society. And they end up recruiting him to do some kind of hero missions overseas. But anyway, when he gets geared up and ready to go, he's like ripping his shirt off. He's putting the bandana around his head, and putting all his gear in. And so I loved it. It reminded me of Lucas was getting his Rambo. Like it made me think that Lucas had recently seen Rambo, and he's like, all right, this is what I got to do. And I saw anyway, because that's what I would have done if I was in his position. I saw Rambo. I can remember watching Rambo as a kid, and he had this hunting knife that had like on one side was all these saw blade jagged edges, and the other side was a knife, and on the tip of it was a little hole. And at one point, Rambo gets hurt in his side, and he stitches himself up. He puts some thread through the hole in the knife, and like stitches himself up with his knife.
Ew.
I know, but it was like, oh yeah, he's so tough, So yeah, I can just picture myself being Lucas, going, all right, I'm gonna have to be the hero here. I got to be like Rambo. And that was my thought when he's doing all that. And I just thought it was so cool.
Caleb actually requested to wear the bandana for that part. And I don't know why, but I just read somewhere that he was the one that actually requested for his character to wear that. So, yeah.
That's cool. Yep. We all had those hunting knives when we were, like you had a compass in the, like the handle would screw open. And inside you could put matches. There's a little saw string you could put in there. I mean, there's a compass. I mean, it was, Rambo was it. He made us all think we were awesome studs, but we were just 12-year-old boys. Okay, let's move on. Speaking of studs, let's talk about Jonathan and Nancy. They decide and this conversation starts back in her bedroom. But I kind of wanted to push all this piece of the story together because of where it ends up. But, I really love how they're putting pieces together about the monster here, about the detecting blood. It was the deer. And I was thinking last week, even though I think they said that the deer got hit by a car, I was thinking it didn't actually get hit by a car. Like the monster injured it.
And it was way too far out in the woods to be hit by a car.
Well, I thought that too. But they're still going with the got hit by a car theory, which doesn't matter. It really doesn't. But I like what they said is that the monster smelled the blood, and that's how it came upon the dog. The deer had indeed been injured. It worked well into their theory, and that's all it is a theory, but it works it plays nicely into Barb's, right? She said, oh, Barb was bleeding. And then we got into the Jaws, and we had talked about Jaws a couple of episodes ago. So they decide they're going to test her theory by setting a trap. And they go to the store. They get bear traps, bullets, gasoline, lighter fluid, some bolts. I don't know. All kinds of stuff.
The dude's like, what are you kids doing with all this stuff? And she's like, monster hunting. And he buys it because, he lets them have all that stuff.
Yeah, he's like, okay.
I'm sure now they won't let however old Jonathan and Nancy are get, like guns and bear traps and all that.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know what the age is for being able to purchase ammunition.
They're probably like 16, 17, or...
Yeah, they're both in high school.
Jonathan can drive, but I'm not sure if Nancy can, because Barb was the one who drove her to the party and stuff.
Yeah.
So Nancy might be 15, maybe 16, and Jonathan's probably 17, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah.
But in real life, Nancy's like 20.
And he's 23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Steve's 25, like...
Is he really?
Yeah.
I haven't looked him up, but I was curious when I was putting together my notes for this episode. I was curious about that, so I looked them up specifically. Yeah. Well, Steve's old enough to deliver pizzas. That's really nice. Okay. We have to have a pizza joke at some point in every episode. I think we've done that just about every episode now.
We have?
I think so. That's at least the fourth time we've done it.
I don't remember any of them.
You've done some of them. You started it, in fact.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, well.
All right. So they decide they're going to do the trap. When they come out of the store, some generic random high school kid drives by. Can't wait to see your movie. She realizes she probably should go check out the movie theater. Steve. And his friends.
Why does she still hang out with them?
I don't know. That girl, what's the girl's name that
Carol.
won't shut up?
Carol.
I want to punch her in the throat now, too. She just never shuts up. She's always popping off.
Even Steve has told her to shut up a few times, and she's just like, wow, you need to chill a little.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're being annoying.
She's very annoying.
And Tommy's annoying, too.
Is he the other...
He's a freckled dude.
Yeah, he is annoying. So she finds him in the back alley. Loved this scene. You know what I loved most about this scene?
Steve getting beat up?
Yes. That's exactly right. So it's just kind of funny because you and I finished our episode Sunday night when we recorded this, July 2nd. And one of the last things we talked about was our news segment. We were talking about the pop figurines from Comic-Con. And I mentioned... This could be a little bit of a spoiler because if you were like me watching episode to episode, there's a pop character of Steve having been beat up. He's bleeding around the face, and
And now you find out.
And now I know. So we finished recording that. I would say within half an hour, I'm watching the episode, and then boom, there it is. I'm like, oh, looky there.
Yay. Let's get some popcorn, rewatch this scene a couple times. I have this scene saved on my camera roll.
Wow, that is savage.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the only one.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good fight. I mean, he got a couple of licks in on Jonathan, but...
And then Jonathan just totally took over.
Took over, yeah.
I mean, don't mess with the Jonathan, you mess with the Nancy, you get the Jonathan. Like that's how it goes.
Yeah, and then the deputies show up. I'm just gonna start calling the dumb deputy Roscoe.
Why?
Well, we were talking about the Dukes of Hazzard just the other day.
What's that?
The Dukes of Hazzard TV show, and they had the car. We were talking about this as we were in the kitchen. It was me and you and your mom. I think your brother was there. And they had the General Lee, and Daisy had the Jeep, and Uncle Jesse had the truck, and Boss Hogg had the big Cadillac with the bullhorns on the front. How can you not remember this conversation?
Because we never talked about it.
All right, maybe you were the one that wasn't there. But anyway, Roscoe was the sheriff in that show, and he was just this goofy, trying hard, but always 3 steps behind, and wasn't the sharpest stick in the box.
Who sharpens sticks?
I don't know. But anyway, that was Roscoe. Roscoe P. Coltrane. Get. That was what he would always, he had this weird laugh and everything. It's funny. He was the comic relief of the show. So anyway, I'm going to start calling the dumb deputy Roscoe.
All right.
He gets elbowed in the face.
Lol.
Yeah. I guess they're going to press charges against Jonathan for that, which...
I mean, he didn't mean to.
I mean, I think he was just trying to say, get back. I don't think he meant to, like...
Actually hurt him.
But we'll see what happens. I mean, when last we left our band of heroes, Jonathan was in the police station. So we'll see what happens.
Just stop breathing.
When I watch episode 7. But anyway, this was a great scene. Just for Steve getting beat up. Interesting thing at the police station, speaking of that, was that Flo or was that... Who was the lady that was talking to Nancy?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't get a good look at Flo, so I'm pretty sure it was her, though.
I'm the exact same way. I didn't really pay much attention to her back in episode 1 when we last saw her.
I mean, I noticed what her hair looked like, and it looked kind of similar, but yeah. I don't know.
Okay. Well, whoever that lady was pointed out to Nancy that a boy wouldn't do this for just anyone, that he must love her.
Well, I mean, I think she's wrong because, I mean, he could possibly like her, but it's kind of obvious that she really likes Steve for whatever reason. And, I mean, it was because Steve was talking trash about Jonathan. I don't think it was because, like, I mean, maybe at first it was because of what he said about Nancy, and maybe that like kind of fed into it, but I think it was mainly because of what he said about Jonathan, like saying he was going to turn out just like his father and stuff. Like, no, that's way too far. You don't say that about someone.
Well, he was popping off about Will too. I mean, here's your missing brother, and this sleazo over here is mocking you and your whole family and your missing brother. I mean, I'm totally with you.
I would have punched the dude in the face too.
Yeah. And he broke his camera, and he wrote he was a perv on the door. I mean, Jonathan had plenty of motivation on his own, Nancy aside, to want to beat the holy crap out of Steve.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at him makes me want to punch him in the face.
Just, yeah, that hairdo he's got. It's like, dude.
His ego is as big as his hair.
Did you comb your hair? Exactly. Did you comb your hair that way on purpose? I know it's the 80s. Big hair was a thing, so. Okay, let's talk about...
Did you see my note there? Steve gets beat up. Hey, yay.
Yeah, I put it in all caps. Steve gets beat up. 3 exclamation points. You follow in all caps. Yay with 5 exclamation points. I bet we're not alone on this. I bet all the listeners out there feel the same way. Okay. I want to spend the remainder of our episode here, at least this part of our episode, talking about Elle. Because really, this is what it's all about. In flashback, I put in here Papa because he's kind of in Papa mode at this point. Papa says, today's a very special day. Today we make history.
And he brought her flowers too.
Yeah, or some sort of plant, which kind of reminded me of E.T. You know how there was the flowers, and whenever E.T. like died, the flowers died, and whenever he came back to life, the flowers came back to life. Yeah. So I'm curious to see what that plant looks like the next time assuming we see it again. I don't think that'll be the last time we see it. Anyway, he says today we make history, today we make contact. And I feel like we're changing things here. Like, what's the real purpose of Elle? And I'm not really clear because, again, what we were talking about earlier, where Terry's sister said that she was designed to be a weapon against the commies, and we're still in the midst of the Cold War, because it seems to me like this flashback we got happened on November 6th or maybe November 5th. Like, it was right at the beginning of this series. And I'm basing that on something I'll talk about in just a second. But anyway, because he says today we're going to make contact, or today we make contact. He's not talking about making contact with the commie that we saw, the Russian guy. He's talking about making contact with the monster that she saw when she was overhearing the Russian guy. And I don't know if that was their intention, or after that happened, he kind of realized what was going on and has diverted her to explore this region or this other, I don't know. I'm really confused about all this, but I find it highly interesting and I can't wait to learn more. But as they put her into the tank, he says to her, "Don't turn away from it this time." Clearly talking about the monster. "I want you to find it." And boy, does she find it. She walks up to it. This was a great scene.
I'm always thinking, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it. Why would you touch it?
Slowly touches it, and when it turns around,
she screams.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Rip headphone users.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was so good. And it scared her so bad. We see the wall, the tiles just kind of blowing up off of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that crack in the wall is what opened up the portal that opened up the gate. That was the formation of the gate right there.
I don't know. I didn't even think about that until you said it. So, I mean, it could be, but I have no idea. I didn't think about it. So.
And you may be right, because I don't know, right? But that's why I'm saying that this flashback, we got that in two pieces. The first flashback was her giving her the plant, saying today's the day we cross over or whatever. We make history. And then the next flashback, which I believed was a continuation of that. So he was taking her from her room, cell, whatever, to the deprivation tank. And then once they get there, now the same day flashback picks up where he says, don't turn away from it.
Didn't he say something about like it can't hurt you?
Yeah, he did. And we still don't know if that's true or not.
I mean, even if it couldn't actually physically hurt you, I mean, it would scare you. I mean, she's 12. I mean, if a monster just turned around on you like that, I mean, I would be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the experience itself is having a physical impact on her. It is hurting her. We see her bleeding from her nose and her ears. That doesn't happen because you're having a great day.
Well, I thought it could be because she's using her powers to access the area.
But that means the whole experience is hurting her, right? And then adding this stress and trauma, emotional distress, all of that is just adding to what this causing her using her powers is it's harmful to her. It's not healthy. So for him to say that, it's complete nonsense. But I think that's why I said I thought that this scene happened either on the 5th or the 6th of November. And it was the opening of the gate, the beginning of the opening of the gate, assuming that after that crack formed, the gate opened up pretty quickly. It could be that it took some time for the gate to open up. But what I believe that we just saw was the beginning of the opening of the gate.
Okay.
Love that scene, though. Just thought it was so cool. Okay. So that's what we got in flashback. The other scenes, let's talk about the other scenes we got with Elle, starting with her visiting the local grocery store.
Yes.
I'm guessing this is number 2 of your 3 favorite scenes from the show. Mm-hmm. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay. If it wasn't this scene, I would have thought the quarry scene, but I was pretty sure it was this scene.
Yeah, I mean, that one's pretty great too, but I like this one because she's just so awesome. She just walks in there like a boss, and then he's like, "You have to pay for those." She's just like, "Nope," and then breaks the doors.
Yeah.
And I mean, Eggos are pretty good. I understand her point.
That's true. You are a bit of an Eggo freak yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, because I never really actually had Eggos until after I watched the show. Because I've never had Eggos before. Because it was either actual pancakes or waffles that we actually made, with
we make the batter and stuff. Yeah.
Or
the off-brand.
Well, no, I think it was only that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then Mom bought the Walmart brand, and that was
gross. Yeah.
It was nasty. You can definitely tell the difference.
Yep.
And okay, fun fact: Eggos originally had a different name. I forgot what it was called, but they got the name Eggos because customers were saying that it had an eggy taste. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know how it tastes like eggs because they don't taste like that at all unless they've changed the recipe since then.
I've never heard that before.
I mean, I saw it on the internet. It could be fake, but...
Well, if you saw it on the internet, I believe it.
Yeah, obviously. Everything on the internet's real, right?
Exactly. That's what Abraham Lincoln says.
What?
Yeah, this scene was so good. You're right. You described it perfectly. I have nothing to add to that.
Well, I have more. So, so she walks in there and the manager dude's like, is your mom here? Your dad? And she's just staring at him like she doesn't understand her. Like she's kind of confused. And then she's just like, mouth breather, and then turns and steals all this stuff. And then she's walking out. And I think that is just awesome how she says mouth breather and stuff. Just, it's awesome.
Yeah. I love that too. Just because she got that term from Mike. Mm-hmm. And so when we see here in just a minute, we're going to talk about it, her come to his rescue. I mean, that was kind of our tipping us off that yes, she left them, but just the fact that she's using that word kind of shows she's still connected with them.
So whenever I first watched the show, I thought that was the first time you heard the word mouth breather. Mm. So whenever, like, actually going back and rewatching it, I realized that it's first heard in the episode whenever they're like walking, and it's right after Mike falls, like, and he hurts his chin, which that part makes me cringe so much. He's like, oh, I don't know. It just looks like it hurts. Like I feel his pain. And so anyway, he calls Troy and James mouth breathers. And Elle's like, what's a mouth breather? So I didn't realize he first said it in like that part. And I thought she was the first one to say it. So yeah, I mean, it makes a lot more sense though. Because like, where would she learn that word from? Because I mean, she's, locked in this facility and she has very limited language. And I'm pretty sure some, like 52-year-old dude wouldn't be saying mouth breather.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool.
It's like a 40-year-old man saying lit.
I'm not sure what you mean. Are you trying to be savage or salty? All right. She steals the Eggos. That was a lot of waffles. The next time we see her, she's parked out in the middle of the woods, and she's honked down all of those waffles. Looks like she's about to finish the last box. There's like 12 waffles in each box, and she probably took 4 to 6 boxes.
Well, I mean,
a lot of waffles. I mean, the only other person I can think of that can eat that many waffles is the person I'm looking at right now.
Me. Which usually I only eat 2 at a time. But I mean, the actual Eggo is just a side with my syrup, so.
Yeah, those do serve as a side for your pancake. What do you call it? Pancake sauce.
Corn dog sauce.
Corn dog sauce. You put syrup on everything, so I'm having a hard time remembering everything you use it as a sauce for. All right. So the boys, Dustin and Mike are together trying to find Elle. They see the aftermath at the grocery store. I'm guessing, what'd you say the bullies' names are? Troy and James. I'm guessing Troy and James saw Mike and Dustin and were like, okay, let's follow them, and that's how they ended up. And I don't think they just randomly ran into each other in the woods. Not that it matters, but
I didn't think about that.
One of them, I don't know which one's which. Troy pulls out a knife.
Yeah, Troy's the main one, and then James, like, I had to actually look up his name because I don't think it ever actually says it, but Troy... Okay.
So Troy's the main one that peed himself and all that.
Yeah.
He's the one with the switchblade. Chase ensues. I don't know how James got circled around and got in front of him on the road like that, but, I mean, I'm guessing he took a shortcut through the woods or something.
Or he's just really fast.
That was scary, though. I mean, I didn't think Mike was going to die. At no point did I think that. But you remember back to the conversation that Hopper had with the other cop, not Roscoe, but the other cop. As they were standing at that very spot, looking down, they were talking about how no one could survive that jump. So it was really intense. And when he jumped, I was like, what's going to happen? I thought Elle would come to the rescue, but I didn't envision her coming to the rescue in the way that I didn't know what she would do. This was so cool. It exceeded my expectations. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And then you see our first meme of the week. Or was it the first? Yeah.
It was the first meme of the week.
It was in episode 0 because it was the one that led me to Stranger Things, and it was Dustin saying she's our friend and she's crazy.
Yeah, loved it when I heard that line.
Did you instantly recognize it?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, and I loved it when she snapped Troy's arm.
Yeah,
That was awesome. He deserved it.
and then she pushes James back and then breaks his arm, and she's just like, go. And they take off running. They're like, oh, don't mess with her.
Yeah.
And then they all just have a group hug. And
The group hug was nice. Well, okay.
Well,
but there was something that led up to the group hug, right?
yeah, because Elle was laying on the ground and she was like, I'm the monster. I'm the one that did it. And Mike's like, no, you're not the monster. And then they hug, and then Dustin's just like, oh, I'm here too. So then he's just like awkwardly on the top,
Yes.
just pat.
Yeah. And of course, this scene of her doing that with the bullies is getting interlaced with those flashback scenes we just talked about of her, touching the monster and that stuff. And for me, I started out our discussion today talking about the episode title, The Monster, and how I really expected us to learn a lot more about the monster. But in hindsight, when we got to this point in the episode, I was like, oh, there we go. The episode title has a double meaning. And, Elle thinks she's the monster. She sees herself as a monster. And so at this point, she proclaims to the boys, I'm the monster. And you can see how she would feel that way,
Because she imagined it.
Yeah.
So to her, she was the one that came up with it.
Yeah, she's the reason all this mess started. She's the creator of it all. And she's got all these powers. She hurts people. I mean, even though she did a good thing by rescuing Mike, in that exact same motion, you can see her saying, yeah, I rescued these guys, but I had to be a monster to do it. That's got to be incredibly difficult for her to figure out who she is, what she is, and that sort of thing. So anyway, that line there where she said that she was the monster, huge payoff for me, having anticipated one thing and it giving me something else. So again, kudos to the writers of this episode for really working that episode title in to carry out multiple meanings throughout the episode. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then the final scene, we think that's all happy and they're going to go home, probably rebuild the blanket fort. Not so fast. We've seen these electrical trucks all around town, or whatever they are, cable guys, or we all know they work for the lab. We saw them outside of Lucas's house when he went off all Rambo, and now they're outside of Mike's house, and he sees Mike and Dustin and Elle going into the Wazowski house and calls it in, and we see the whole team of trucks just about to descend on Castle de Wazowski. End of episode. And I was like, no, you can't end that way, because I can't continue on. I can't watch the next episode. I want to know what happens right now, and I can't, because I have to wait 2 days and podcast about this and get that recorded and in the bag before I can watch another episode. So I can't wait to wrap this episode up and go watch episode 7.
Yep.
All right, so good, very, very good episode. As I said at the top of our podcast, my favorite episode so far. I'm really going to be interested. Having said that, I am really interested on my rewatch once I have the whole season in context, and then I rewatch it.
Yeah, you get to actually watch it.
Yeah, I wonder
together.
how the episodes will rank for me. But anyway.
Someone seriously needs to write this as a book.
Yeah, could be done. All right. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
All right. Let's move into notes from the Upside Down listener feedback. All right. Addie, we've got some awesome feedback for today's episode.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we have 3 pieces of feedback, 2 from first-time contributors, which is always exciting.
Yep.
All right, so I'll take the first one here. This one comes in from Ruth, and she says, now this is just general feedback. She says, hiya, I'm Ruth from Bridlington, England. I believe I said that right. If I didn't, I'm sorry, Ruth. Anyway, it's Charlie Heaton's hometown.
You should have read it in a British accent.
Oh, I love doing British accents. I'm so good at them. Hiya, I'm Ruth from Bridlington, England. Charlie Heaton's hometown. Why are you laughing at me? Gonna eat some spam after this. I used to listen to your Fringe podcast, which I loved. It was really pleased to see you guys doing a podcast for Stranger Things. All right, I'm stopping that now because no one wants to hear that anymore, right?
Continue.
No, I'm going back to my normal voice.
Dang it, I was just going to record it.
Let's see. I was pleased to see you guys doing a podcast for Stranger Things. I enjoy listening to the banter between you both. Makes me laugh. Hopefully that bit made you laugh and not made you want to throw your device across the, out a window or something.
I want to throw you out a window.
Let's see here. I watched Stranger Things last year and have started watching it again with my husband. First time for him. So they've got a similar dynamic to the two of us.
Why hasn't he watched it before? Is he okay?
I'm sure he's fine. Thank you for your concern. That's nice of you to show concern for her husband.
You're welcome.
Ruth says, love listening to your thoughts about the show and picking up things I had not noticed before. I've just seen the trailer for the next season.
Excellent.
And eek! I'm so excited. Can't wait. Hope you guys continue the podcast for the next season. Oh, and SDCC, San Diego Comic-Con, looked amazing. We have had a Comic-Con in Bridlington this year, which was, well, bloody crap.
That sounds painful.
Sorry to hear that, Ruth. Hopefully one year I'll get to come to one of the proper ones in America. That comes in from Ruth. Ruth, I think they have a good one in in London every year. It seems like some of the big stars go over there. I don't know anything about it.
Minecon.
That's different, sweetheart. But so we did just get back from San Diego Comic-Con and the trailer did drop. But we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Before we get into that, we've got more feedback to share. Addie, take it away.
All right, this one's from Amy in Sacramento. Regarding Chapter 5, The Flea and the Acrobat, I'm a new viewer to Stranger Things that is watching it along with the episodes of your podcast. I am typing this feedback as I watch episode 5, praying that it will not ruin or even completely confirm the theory that has been crystallizing in my mind regarding the sheriff in 11. I thought from the very first episode that maybe there were weird circumstances regarding the death of the sheriff's daughter. I believe he first said his daughter was simply living elsewhere, while someone else said she was dead. This made me wonder if there were strange circumstances surrounding her death, like perhaps she was missing and only presumed dead. Now, with the body stuffed with cotton that the sheriff found in Chapter 4, the prospect is raised that creepy Matthew Modine's scientific cult group might be faking children's deaths so that they can use the kids in their experiments. So, tinfoil hat theory time. Could 11 be the sheriff's daughter? The sheriff's reaction to the picture with the written exclamation, Papa, during his visit to the creepy science hang spot was an interesting supporting, if not confirming, fact. P.S. Consider me a fellow member of the I Hate Steve Club, same. And I'm not loving Lucas too much at the present either. Yeah, I didn't really like Lucas at first. He used to be my least favorite character, and then I rewatched it and realized just how much of a jerk Steve is, so that changed my opinion. And Lucas is now one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
I mean, not my favorite because it's Dustin. No one can replace Dustin, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a really interesting theory.
Yep.
Amy. Now, just to kind of make this clear, this theory was sent in by Amy a week ago. In fact, it came in just literally hours after we had scheduled the last week's episode for release. So it was really close to being able to be included in last week's episode. And the theory would have made a whole lot more since then. I think Amy, you probably agree that after having watched this week's episode with what we learned about 11 and Terry Ives and Hopper not knowing Terry and all that stuff, that this is probably not a theory that is going to come true. Although we don't know anything about Hopper's daughter's backstory, so I mean, it could be true, but I'm leaning towards it not being true.
As someone who's seen the show dozens of times, I'm kind of leaning towards no too, but I mean, it could be possible.
Okay. I'll tell you this, though. I think it's a better theory than my, the Demogorgon is 11 from the upside down dimension. Every time I think about that theory, I think it's pretty crappy.
Yeah, yours is lame.
Well, time will tell on that one. So, well, that's cool to get feedback from both Ruth and Amy as first-time contributors. We hope to hear from both of you guys again. And we love hearing from repeat feedbackers as well. And with that, here's Jeff.
Hello? Can anyone hear me? Hello? Help me.
Transmissions from the Upside Down. Hey, Addie and Daryl. This is Jeff, X-Force 11. I really enjoyed this episode because it was so mythology heavy. We got to see the reveal of how the gateway was opened. We got to see our first glimpse of the Upside Down in a bigger sense with Nancy, and we got to see the forming of alliances and groups together, and we got to see Elle use her powers like crazy. I really enjoyed this episode. It really made me question things when I first saw it, and when I saw it again, it just really reminded me about how much I enjoy this show because of the mix of the mythology and the relationships and just how well it goes together. The Duffer Brothers just wrote this thing very tight, and it gives me high hopes for season 2. Looking forward to hearing what y'all have to say. X-Force 11 out.
Excellent. So he feels the same way I do about that being the formation of the gate.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it probably is. I just never really thought about it. I thought it was just, there's a crack in the wall.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's what I thought the first time I watched the episode. It was on upon my rewatch that I thought, that was the formation of the gate, I bet.
Yeah, because now I realize it's kind of, I mean, basically everywhere in the lab looks the same to me, just white walls and
right,
basic
very sterile
lab.
looking. Yeah.
But now that I think about it, it does look a lot like the place where Hopper was.
Mm-hmm.
Like right before the dude stabs him with the needle.
Yeah, and it would make sense that, I mean, because Hopper also saw Elle's room, so I mean, not that Elle's room would have to be like right next to the place where that happened, but it would make sense that they would be close together, close enough for Hopper to see both of those places while he was sneaky.
Except he got caught once.
He did get caught. Got caught twice, actually.
Oh, yeah. But still, like I said, he's good at sneaking around if only there weren't security cameras.
Yeah, does kind of get in the way sometimes. All right, thanks, Jeff. Looking forward to hearing from you in the future. And I was talking to another listener today, Jason. Jason used to send in feedback for stuff I learned yesterday, which is really cool. And he listens to multiple shows on our network. And so anyway, he's going to be sending in some feedback. He's kind of been waiting for us to get close so he could send in some feedback about the series as a whole. And I'll bet you that Jason is not alone on that. So, the truth is, by the time you hear this episode, we will have recorded all 8 episodes. as I mentioned at the top of the show, why we're recording these, in this manner. But that doesn't matter. Go ahead and send in your feedback for anything, any episode of the show, the season as a whole, because we're going to be doing another episode before season 2 starts. Kind of a recap on season 1, predictions and previews into season 2. And if there's any huge announcements, we'll do something even before that. But either way, go ahead and send in your feedback. We'll keep it and put it aside and have it already kind of put in the bank, if you will, ready for that season 2 preview episode. So the way you can do that is simply go over to goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback. There you'll see all the ways that you can send in feedback. You can type it out. You can attach an audio file. There's a phone number you can call that goes straight to voicemail, or you can even record a voice message from our website using the SpeakPipe widget that you'll see there. Once again, that website address is goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback. Addie, that's not the only way that we can communicate with people. What are some other ways?
Our Instagram is Stranger Things GSM. Our Twitter is Upside Down GSM. And our Facebook is facebook.com/groups/Stranger Things GSM.
Excellent job. Are you ready for the quote of the week?
Yes, I am.
All right. What is it?
The quote of the week is mouth breather. And that's said by 11 in this episode.
Are you lost? Is your mom here? Your dad?
Mouth breather.
What should we do?
Call the police. Excuse me, young lady. You know you have to pay for those. Hey, stop right. Please. You have to pay for those. Stop right there. Thief! Thief!
It's such a good scene.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 episodes left. I have 2 episodes left to watch. I don't know if your third scene is going to be in episode 7 or episode 8.
Guess right now.
I'll say episode 8.
Mm-hmm, that's
okay.
right.
Okay. So I'm hoping that when I see it, I'll instantly know it. I mean, the first 2, I knew instantly when I saw them, those were going to be your favorite scenes. So I'm predicting I'll be able to figure that one out too.
Will you now?
Yep. We'll find out in a couple of days.
All right.
Yep. Okay. Let's talk about predictions. I don't trust some people that we met in this episode. Terry's sister is hiding something. There were 2 scenes or 2 shots in the different scenes that we got with her. She was smoking throughout, and you could see her when she was holding the cigarette in her hand, that her hand was shivering a little bit. And to me, it was a clue that she was nervous. And she was nervous because she's hiding something. I don't know what she's hiding. It seemed like she was forthright with what Terry claimed about Jane and didn't believe it. But I don't know. And some smokers, they'll get the jitters when they haven't had a smoke in a while, because they're addicted to the nicotine and the
bad stuff.
The drugs that are in there. But she's smoking at that time. So I don't know. I just felt like those were some physical clues that she's not telling them the full truth. And so we'll see if that pans out or not. But at this point, I feel like Terry's sister is hiding something. She knows something else. I put in my notes, she knows the truth. I don't even know if that's really the best way to put it. I'm not sure what she knows, but she's scared that Hopper's getting too close, and she doesn't like it that people are asking questions about this. So she's hiding something. Okay, that's all I got for predictions. All right, well, what do you say we move into news and rumors, otherwise known as
the Hawkins Report.
Well, we just returned from San Diego Comic-Con, as was mentioned earlier in the episode, and we have a lot to share with you about that experience. In fact, we are going to be doing a separate podcast, hopefully in the next week. Well, definitely in the next week, because then I'm going out of town again.
You need to stop.
I know. I've been traveling so much, it's ridiculous. We're going to just talk about our experience at San Diego Comic-Con. Addie, let's tease a couple of the things that will be in that episode. Let's not go into detail about them. That's what that episode's going to be about. But let's talk about what we're going to discuss in that episode.
What I hate about Comic-Con.
What she means is how we didn't get into the Stranger Things panel.
Which is why I hate Comic-Con.
Yeah. What'd you like about Comic-Con?
Free stuff.
Free stuff. Okay. What she means is how
No, I said what I mean.
What we enjoyed about the booth, the Netflix booth that was on the exhibit floor, and what we liked about the Netflix experience, which was across the street, open to the public over at the Hilton Gas Lamp. We'll definitely be talking about both of those.
Like I said, I definitely think they should have had a separate line for people who had badges.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges. Why are you looking at me blankly? That is a classic movie line from one of my favorite movies of all time because it stars Humphrey Bogart, Treasure of the Sierra Madre. You're still looking at me blankly? We'll move on. Let's see, what else we're going to talk about? Well, just in general, we'll talk about our experience on the expo floor, some things that we purchased at the event and then after the event, and how that whole situation came about.
So many of them.
That's definitely something we need to talk about. Yeah, just overall our experience. We I don't know that everything has a specific topic, but we'll be sending that your way this week. And Addison, what's the other podcast episode that we're going to be recording this week besides, episode 7, which technically has already been recorded?
We're going to have a whole episode dedicated to the Stranger Things Season 2 trailer. Are we going to tie the teaser into it too?
The teaser? What do you mean?
The teaser trailer that showed during the Super Bowl. The whole reason I watched the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that in detail, so maybe we need to think about that. It'll be thrilling, I'm sure. Whatever we discuss in that episode, it'll be thrilling.
Mm-hmm.
You can't beat it.
I can't wait to binge watch the whole thing on October 27th.
Yeah, I think Billy's going to watch it. Jean's probably going to watch it. Why did you finally roll your eyes at me? Did it take you 3 Michael Jackson puns for you to understand what I was talking about?
No, I just got the Billy and the Jean. Well, I was kind of confused at first.
I said it would be thrilling. I said you can't beat it.
Oh. I didn't hear those. I
was about to go to obscure Michael Jackson songs that I don't think, like, I'm going to talk about real basic, like ABC 1, 2, 3 type of stuff. You probably wouldn't even get. All right, we're definitely going to be talking about the trailer. As Ruth mentioned in her feedback, it dropped during San Diego Comic-Con. It dropped during the panel, but rather than include it in our San Diego Comic-Con episode, we are going to do a separate, complete breakdown analysis of that. And it's amazing. It is so good. Edson, what were your initial thoughts when you saw the brand new trailer that dropped during San Diego Comic-Con?
I was wishing we got to see it in the panel.
Yeah, that was probably my initial thought too. Just to feel the energy and the reaction from the fans. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, but I would also want all of them to shut up so I can watch it.
Yeah. It got me so pumped.
I was like, every 3 seconds.
Yeah, I was too. And we should probably mention too, this is probably a good point to mention. If you're not following us on social media, you should. While we were at Comic-Con, I was tweeting all the time, anytime we saw someone in cosplay or we saw something interesting, pictures of what we were doing and things like that. And then over on our Facebook page, we did a video of the Netflix experience. So it's actually 2 videos because it was 2 different rooms. And we did an initial reaction, just like a 2-minute video or something like that. All of those got uploaded to our Facebook page because they're longer. So make sure you're checking those out. But one of the things we noticed in the Stranger Things experience was an arcade. And I even said in our initial reaction video, I wonder if that's a hint that something we'll see in season 2. Well, once you see the trailer, absolutely. Not even a hint.
Yeah.
It's just blatant. So
It's like the
that's
first
cool.
thing.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk more about that when we talk about the trailer.
They didn't have Jonathan's camera or Lucas's bandana
Okay, we'll talk about that when we get
or Eleven's wig.
Yeah, those are all things that we're missing. We'll talk about that when we do our
Or Steve's dead body. What?
Comic-Con recap episode. So anyway, that's really all we have for the news this week. We just kind of wanted to let you know what was coming up in terms of what we've got coming up in terms of episodes, what those are going to be covering. And then the last thing before we close up this segment today is the Stranger Things Loot Crate. Now we talk about this every time, but we just got back from Comic-Con and like catty corner right next door really to the Netflix booth on the expo floor was the Loot Crate booth.
We got free stuff from that too. Oh yeah.
They were handing out free stuff if you were a Loot Crate member, showing up in your Loot Crate, gear.
I'm pretty sure if you had the pin, it would have worked too, but they ran out of boxes.
Yeah, we brought with us like 3 or 4 Loot Crate t-shirts, so we got stuff.
I brought my only Loot Crate t-shirt.
Well, I brought like 3 of mine, and so we got some good swag from them, although they ran out in later days, so we didn't get as much as we could have. But anyway, one thing they were really promoting there was the Stranger Things specialty Loot Crate. Now Addison asked them, what's the sale period on this, like when do we need to get it? And they said
until they run out, or until season 2 comes out, and then like they'll start shipping them and stuff. So yeah.
Yep. So pretty vague answer, but that's kind of what we were planning on. Anyway, we're going to be ordering ours pretty soon, probably within the next 2 weeks. I think we'll probably maybe 3 weeks.
She said it's better to order it sooner than later.
Well, of course, because if they sell out, then you miss out. So, but they didn't tell us they didn't give us any indication as to what was going to be in it. So we don't have any bonus content or bonus clues to tell you about what's going to be in it, but it was cool. They were heavily promoting it. They were positioned perfectly. So as the line was snaking around the Netflix booth, you could see the Stranger Things Loot Crate facing you. So they knew what they were doing.
The Netflix booth wasn't just Stranger Things though. So
no, it wasn't.
I mean,
that's a big part of it.
Yeah, it was like half Stranger Things, half Defenders.
Yeah, and Bright.
Who cares about that? It's not Stranger Things.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our news segment.
And now it's time for the meme of the week.
The meme of the week.
So the meme of the week is... the caption is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed out are you? And it's a picture of Gaten pointing to 11 on the door. I guess it's Millie's dressing room or something like that.
I don't know. It looks like it might be an elevator to me. It's definitely a door frame and a door.
I don't know, but it's something that has 11 on it, and Gaten's pointing to it.
Yeah. Oh, he has teeth in that picture. I knew that his teeth had grown in by the time season 2 starts. So this was a fairly recent picture.
I don't know, because I've seen it for a while. So, I mean, he could be wearing fake teeth or something. I don't know. Either way, he's adorable.
He's pretty awesome. Well, that's going to bring us to a close. Again, we want to hear your feedback. We'd love to have it for our season 2 preview episode that's going to be coming your way probably early October. So you got plenty of time. You can send it in anytime. We'll take it. We'll set it aside. We've got a folder set up ready to go. That's goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback. And of course, follow us on Instagram at Stranger Things GSM, on Twitter at Upside Down GSM, or Facebook.com/groups/Stranger Things GSM. All right, Addie, as always, it's been fun.
And don't forget to stay strange.